Welcome to the Leaderish Podcast with your hosts, Regina and Doris.
Hey, Doris. How's it going?
Hey, Regina. It's going very well. How are you today?
I'm doing great. And like always, I'm usually doing great because I'm so excited about the episode that we're recording. And today we are recording an episode that is so near and dear to my heart, and it's helping people find jobs. So these are all of the tips that you wish you knew when you were looking for your next job, your next role, your next career, whether you're staying in the same industry or role or you're changing it up, whatever that looks like. And we have a really remarkable guest with us today. Joel Schwan has crazy amounts of experience in talent acquisition and talent strategy. And I'm so excited to have him here today to talk to us and help you guys all get some really good job seeking tips. Joel, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Regina. Thanks, Doris. Yeah, so I'm Joel Schwan from Schwan Stratifyer, and my primary purpose of my business is workforce planning and strategizing for small to medium-sized businesses, but I also do career services, which is focused on helping the job seekers improve their resumes, improve their LinkedIn profiles, give them better strategies on how they can present themselves online, and how they can present themselves when applying for jobs.
Well, that is exactly why we asked you to be on the podcast today. So we're really happy to have you. What is happening right now with the job market? I keep hearing some different things. What are you seeing?
So right now, the job market is incredibly packed. It is filled from businesses having implementing AI into their systems for the past couple of years, and now we're seeing layoffs happen at an exponential rate. And unfortunately, a lot of businesses haven't really caught up with the trends on how to really improve the hiring processes just yet to accommodate the large market. But right now, we're because there's so much competition on the job market that job seekers actually need to kind of like rethink on how they're applying for jobs and how they even approach looking for jobs. It's not just submitting a resume anymore, because now everyone's using resumes. All resumes are also using AI to create those resumes and then submit them. And if everyone's using AI to create resumes, they all kind of start sounding the same. And so it becomes difficult for employers that are looking to hire talent to really differentiate, which ones are the most qualified, because you can't interview all 1,000 applicants into a requisition when it's submitted. They have to kind of like filter them out, and they can only pick and choose so many at a time. So it comes down to the question as to, for employers, how do I review the resumes in the most efficient manner so I can find the right talent? And also, how can I do it quickly? And so job seekers kind of need to find a way to stand out in that aspect. How do I make my resume sound better and also different from everyone else? How can I present myself online so I can be discovered and or reviewed by the hiring manager when they do see my resume?
You've got people submitting their resumes. Because of AI, the resumes are all looking the same, is what I heard.
Yes.
They look the same. They've got the same keywords in them. They have the same skills. But you said that the key right now is to be able to differentiate yourself if you're using AI. And I do want to come back to that, because there are a lot of folks that aren't using AI. And so I want to come back to that. But for right now, can we focus on how does one differentiate themselves in the world of AI resumes?
So it really depends on what you want to talk about on that. If we want to talk about first, we do resumes. The first aspect of resumes is that how do you write your resume well that it showcases all your skills correctly? And there are a couple of different ways to do that. AI can definitely help organize your skills in a more smooth manner, but you don't want to just copy and paste what ChatGPT puts down. That's where a lot of people make the big mistake, is that they just copy whatever ChatGPT pumps out. They don't review it. They don't really make sure they do any edits in it. They just throw it in their resume and then submit. And unfortunately, then sometimes they get caught when they actually do get called in for an interview, and then the hiring manager is asking them questions like, did you actually do this in your resume? And they're like, oh, well, no, I used ChatGPT, full honesty. And then that's kind of where people get tripped up. So in order to avoid that type of situation, you want to be able to structure your resume in a way that it kind of showcases your skills in the easy read, but also it's not sounding exactly what ChatGPT put out. And there's a good way to do that. For example, in your summaries, You don't want to just do the normal block summary of I have 10 plus years in this industry. I have a proven track record of blah, blah, blah. First off, it's like the proven track record part is kind of, I would say, subjective. It's not very in the way of putting a more objective view on it, because that's what you're saying, you have a proven track record, but that doesn't mean that other people have vouched for you on that.
Other people see it
exactly.
that way. Yeah.
So you want to put it in a more clear aspect of like first bullet points do your summaries in a bullet point, maybe like 4 to 5. First bullet point, sum up on your background in one sentence and years of experience plus roles, field, plus types of companies that you've worked for. And then you go on to the next bullet point, which is like 1 to 4 bullet points of being examples of specific measurable results that relate to the role. This is where a lot of people kind of get tripped up as well, is they don't understand measurable results when it's told to them. I've even worked with some people in VP roles that should obviously be measuring or understanding the measurement of metrics when they're using them and where to look for that. And sometimes when I talk to them when they're working on their resumes, they're like, well, I've never, my job doesn't really entail metrics. And I was like, I guarantee you it does. You just need to know where to look for it. And so being able to know where to look for your metrics, and it's really easy. If you're more of a low rung or mid-level employee, you can reach out to your manager or their manager's manager and be like, hey, order your performance reviews. And hey, can I get some reports that state how well I've been doing in this role? And usually they'll share those reports happily with you. And they'll put in your performance reviews to show exactly how well you've been doing, or depending on what it is you've been doing in your role. But if you're higher up, you should have access to those reports as well. And you should know how to access that by, and if you don't, you go to HR and ask them. They'll be happy to tell you exactly how to look up these reports. So it's very important to understand measurable results, but you can also word your resumes in a way where it doesn't have to have the numbers of metrics in them all the time. You can word it in a way where it makes it sound like you're standing out. And after that, you want to be able to put down some examples as to how well you've been doing into your experience section as well. So after your summary, you go into your professional experiences, and you're pretty much doing the same thing in bullet point wise, but you want to add like if you only have like a couple metrics that you know of off the top of your head, put them at the first couple of the bullet points of that company. And then you go down into tying in the responsibility or results into those metrics if you have them, and if you've accomplished any business goals there. And you want to add something relatable to the scope as well, like was it statewide, countrywide, international, and include something that's related to the budget or size of the market too, depending on what you're doing in your role, of course. But those are very key aspects to put in, is what companies are looking for, what you value added to other companies that you've worked for. And so that's the biggest takeaway of this, is like sharing your value from what you've contributed.
A couple of questions that come to mind as you say that. Number one, you mentioned summary, and I've heard that you should start with objectives. So the resume is more rather than a brief summary. How do you feel about the difference between objectives, meaning objectives for the job? I am applying for this VP role because ... versus summary, here's a little bit about me.
Yeah, the way I mentioned it and how it should be structured, you're actually putting in your objective into that summary. So you don't necessarily have to be blunt about it and say, yeah, I'm looking for this role because...
Well, of course you are. You're applying for it.
You're applying for this role for various reasons, but the main goal is like, I want to work for you. So you can, if you're transitioning careers, I would say to be more blunt about it in the summary section and put a bullet point about it. I'm transitioning from this industry to this other industry, for example, maybe from hospitality to nursing. Big jump, but some people do it. And when you make a big transition like that, of course, you want to put in a little bit of information as to why you're doing it, what you're more passionate about. I've contributed all this to the hospitality in customer service, and now I want to move on to getting my certification or degree to join the hospital force of nursing or becoming a doctor. Those are the type of things that you want to put down. It doesn't have to be lengthy, and that can go blend into the summary as well as what you've accomplished, your greatest achievements in that area. But you just want to make sure you're targeting that other industry that you're trying to get into.
And then part two of that question is for going back to AI or thinking about AI. If you take the job description and you take your resume and you put both of those in ChatGPT and say, well, here's my resume, here's what they're looking for. Help me write the resume. So the keywords, and I've always heard about keywords, and whether it's, I don't know if it's a human or a non-human that looks at those 1,000 resumes. We talked about having 1,000 resumes. No one has the time to look at 1,000 resumes. So there must be some type of an AI filter that's going through those, looking for those keywords. I don't know if that's even true, number one. And number two, if it is true, is that a good methodology to throw both of those into ChatGPT and say, customize my resume for this particular job that I'm looking for so that those keywords are in there based on my own experience, not putting in fake experience, but just using keywords based on what the 20, 30 years of experience that I have. Is that good advice?
Good advice, actually. The way you worded it, actually, Doris, is exactly how you should put it into ChatGPT. Because if you just put in generalized, revise my resume for this role, or copy this job description to this resume, ChatGPT is going to do the bare minimum generic spit out. So you want to be able to be as detailed as possible if you are using AI to optimize your resume. The more details you provide and the more instructions that you give it, it'll give you a better result. What I also recommend doing, of course, is no matter how well you word it, it's still going to pump out something a little bit generic in some aspects. So make sure you're always reviewing that resume. Now, as far as people using AI to review resumes, yes, actually, a lot of companies the tools that they use are starting to implement AI into their abilities to scan resumes. Now, it's an add-on feature, so not every employer, even if they're using the same ATS application tracking system, for example, Workday, one Workday is not equal to someone else's Workday, is the very big takeaway. They all have pretty much the same format. After you submit your resume, you plug it in manually to it. That's a job seeker tip I've heard quite a bit about Workday, but the internal features of it for recruiters is a little bit different. So there are AI features. If they do have it, I've talked to a lot of recruiters. A lot of them just kind of ignore it because what it does is basically scores your resume based on a couple different variables. And honestly, not too many recruiters have actually had it explained to them very well. Still, they usually opt to just ignore the score rankings. Now, there are some that have been using it, and they take it as with a grain of salt, to be honest. They're not using it as, oh, well, this person got ranked a 10, but this person ranked a 5. I'm going to go with the 10, of course. No, they're going to take that into consideration, but they're going to look at the resumes anyway.
But when they have 1,000 resumes, Joel, for one role, they're probably only going to look through the 9s and 10s. They probably aren't going to go all the way down to the 5s, right?
You might think that. So let me go into a little bit more detail about that too. So most recruiters will use the keyword filtering thing, which has been around long before AI. Now, AI is an automatic categorizing of ranking of resumes as which is the strongest. Now, you're right. They can't go through every single one of those 1,000 resumes, but they can look through the ones that are the most recent, which is usually the ones that have the best chance of moving on to an interview. If you, for example, submit resumes and there's like 100 plus already there, it's okay to still submit them because you're probably going to be put at the top compared to everyone that started when they first started the role and they didn't look at anything for the first couple of days. So those people will be at the bottom because when you're submitted to a requisition, you go into that system. Now, you're automatically going to be jumped into like what they call the requisition. We call it job openings for the average person. You go into that job opening, all right? And then once your resume is there, if they're filtering just by who applied, it's people that applied first, like I mentioned, are going to be at the bottom, and the people that applied most recently will be at the top. Now, they can adjust how they filter it based on AI scores if they have AI there as a part of their add-on. If they do, they'll probably look at those scores, but again, they're not explained very well as to how they're actually scoring people well. So a lot of recruiters take it with a grain of salt. And I've talked to quite a few recruiters on this, so I recommend, taking what they have to say about it to heart, that they are actually just kind of like, there's also filtering with keywords. You can type that in manually outside of regular AI. And that's usually how recruiters find people in the resume haystack. We're looking for this particular type of level of experience, this many years, and this job title. or sometimes it's this job title and this company that the hiring manager has a preference for. And they'll filter it on like that. And then those resumes will filter to the top. So that's the easiest like entry level knowledge about that as far as like how to filter resumes.
But what I keep hearing, though, is keywords are important.
Keywords are still...
Regardless, whether there's AI involved or not, the keywords that are in the job description are important so that the recruiter can at least find a batch of resumes that match the needs of the organization.
Right. Keywords are still important, but it's how you use them, too. You don't want to just throw them in there because we're all used to having a skill section with generic keywords that are basically seen as buzzwords. We don't want that. We want to be able to put it in there into the actual lineup in the bullet points of your job history and how it equates to the value you've added at the previous job.
So it's important to provide context for each of those keywords.
Yes.
How have you demonstrated that? What were the results? What value did you bring to the organization when you demonstrated this skill, which is also a keyword?
Okay, that's a lot of... I would say that I do that with every resume that I work with, is asking them first and foremost with every client that I talk to is like, what have you done? What are the biggest accomplishments you've contributed to each of these roles on your resume? And then we go back to the metrics. If there's metrics to be had and showcased, we put them at the first couple bullet points of each of those jobs that they've been at. And then we flow down further into talking more about adding those keywords into the job to showcase the value that kind of support the metrics that you provided up top. For example, one good one is rejoined to support the U.S. expansion as their revenue grew from 4 times to year over year and recruited 58 new team members from April 2021 to December 2021. That is a talent acquisition example role right there. Being able to do something like that is kind of like showcasing the value that you're bringing. And you're kind of using the same type of buzzwords like recruited and team members and support. Those are some basic keywords in talent acquisition. But the same things can be applied. Did you help an offer to accept at 58.87% for an example? These are things that you kind of want to make sure. And what did you use to leverage that percentage? Was it, for example, talent acquisition, did you use ATS, the tool? What type of tools did you use? So it's knowing how to use those keywords and not just plugging them into a generic listing so you get pulled up by the searches.
I think those are some great examples. I want to go back to the other example. Let's help this person that was in hospitality find a job in nursing. What would you say to this individual that maybe the resume, they're going for a nursing certification, but maybe they don't have any experience working in a hospital or in the medical field. They were working in hospitality, so they're switching over a little bit. What would be some things that you could do from a keyword perspective that might transition from hospitality to nursing?
Soft skills would be the biggest thing. You won't be able to move a lot of hard skills over from hospitality over to nursing just because they're two very different industries. But a lot of your soft skills like customer service and communication with the people that you're serving in hospitality, depending on what you were doing, if it was restaurant or fast food, those are the biggest elements that will go over your team development skill, your leadership skills. Those are all big things that are able to be transferred to other industries. How you approach a problem and solve the problem in usually a structured manner is the biggest thing too, as far as like what companies are looking for, because in almost every role, there's a problem, you need to know how to solve it. And these are all transferable to other industries. And when we talk about that in restaurants, for example, it's working with the people they're serving, customer satisfaction, trying to make sure that everyone's having a pleasant experience. That all goes over into nursing. And this is a good example too, because in nursing, you need to have very good bedside manner. So we want to make sure people are comfortable and they understand the situation. And that's where soft skills that you develop over the years from other jobs that you've had apply, and being able to stress that to people when you're interviewing for a new industry is going to differentiate you. And definitely you want to put it in your resume too.
Oh, and that's a great place to put that, or a good something to put in your summary as well, as you had kind of mentioned
Exactly.
before. Now, Doris, I don't want to end today's conversation without talking about LinkedIn. And I know you had some questions around that. So I want to make sure that we have a little bit of time for you to explore that a little bit more.
Yeah, I know that everyone should have a good and solid LinkedIn profile. And I love the fact that you included in your introduction a little bit about LinkedIn and how to create a strong LinkedIn profile. And we know that we have all seen recently the little green sign on people's profile that says open to work. And it always makes me a little bit sad because I thought, oh no, a layoff. Something happened. I have many years of insurance industry experience, and there are a lot of layoffs happening in the insurance industry. And so I'm constantly seeing new people in that industry with the little label open to work. And let's talk a little bit about that label itself. Should we have the label publicly? Should we have that label privately? And or what can we do differently in our LinkedIn profile so that it stands out? And we know that recruiters are looking at LinkedIn profiles. They're going to look at your resume, and then the next step's probably going to be your LinkedIn profile. And what are you doing out in the public domain? And let's just talk a little bit about that.
Okay, yeah. So LinkedIn is basically your resume 24/7. That's a good way to look at it. Now, as far as the green banner goes, and there's a lot of controversy about this as to whether it's practical or not. And it depends on, one, if you are currently employed, or two, you're unemployed or you're looking for a job. Let's go with the first one. If you're employed and looking for a job, I recommend not having the green banner on, but having it visible to recruiters.
Agreed.
There are a lot of reasons for this, but the biggest one is that retaliation is real. And unfortunately, it does exist no matter where you are in the world, to be honest, but it's very practical.
Look, let me pause you on that one for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
I had an employee who did this, was employed full-time, and they turned their open to work on and completely checked out of their job. Like completely checked out. And this happened like almost simultaneously, maybe checked out a few weeks before. And then they were like, I'm just going to continue to get a paycheck, not do anything, and turn my open to work on for everyone. Everyone in the company saw it too. Don't do it, people. Not a good idea.
Exactly. That's a great lesson right there. Okay, we're done. We can close up now. No, really, that is a really great lesson, actually, Regina. The biggest thing is because, and any attorney that manages like employment cases and termination cases are for that exact reason. You don't want to make a public display that you're leaving. If you're working, I recommend don't turn on the green banner so people can see it, but make sure recruiters can see it.
Okay.
So there's an option in there when you're doing that in LinkedIn, when you're looking for work. Now that's so they can't retaliate against you. You're not making a public display that you're leaving. It's okay to think that if you're checked out, if you're looking for another job and the culture just burns you out, it's fine, but don't be vocal about it, please, especially online, because whatever you say stuff online, start trashing the business, then other employers that are looking at you aren't going to want to hire you because of that.
No.
So you want to, and also you don't want to be unemployed faster than you need to be. So keep working, keep getting that paycheck, keep doing what you're doing at a job until something better comes along. Now let's talk about how the unemployed are handling it. If you're unemployed, I do recommend putting the green banner on. One, it showcases that you are looking for a job. You are out there searching and you do desperately need one. You know, a lot of people will say, oh, you look desperate. Well, yeah, because I am. So let's make sure it's not like shame people for doing that. I think it's more important to suggest that people that are looking for a job, and I've seen a lot of people get a lot of reaction when they put up their green banner from their network where they are supporting them.
They even share it. I see people sharing that and saying, hey, this guy is really great. You need to hire him.
Exactly.
And that hopefully will help them find that next role too.
I see it every day on my network feed in LinkedIn as well. Now, there'll be some people that will aggravate you and that will give you generic advice. Well, have you thought about just limiting your options to this instead. And it's like, no, I really want to go back into nursing or hospitality or, or talent acquisition, things like that. I want to stay in my industry. I want to stay in my lane. I will change if I have to, type of thing. And that's probably what you're thinking, but you don't want to voice that either. And I do see a lot of people with their open banner that have been searching for God knows how many months, probably 9 months to almost a year. And they start venting their frustrations. And I don't recommend people doing that either. The hiring manager does see your resume. The first thing they're going to do is look on your LinkedIn if you have one. And then they're going to look at, if they decide to go deeper, some do, we'll look into your comment or profile history, posting history as well, and see what you've posted. And maybe to see if you have any industry experience, or maybe you're sharing value, which is another thing we can touch on too real quick. But first, you don't want them to see a rant and see that you're very frustrated, because if you're frustrated in that moment, what's to stop you from posting again on LinkedIn about maybe some frustration you're having with them if they hire you? So it's good to kind of keep your anchor in check. It's good to, if you want to vent, I always recommend venting to your family, your friends, and any people offline. All right?
Privately.
Very privately. Maybe even to your animal pets if you have them. Like, I have 2 dogs and a dozen cats. So I can vent to them and to my 2 kids and my wife, and they will keep it private within the family. So we don't don't do it online, because it's not helping you. It's only hurting you. So definitely keep it in check. I do recommend, though, if you are open to work, to publish on LinkedIn either articles about the industry that you're in or looking to get into, your thoughts on it, your opinions, and your experience, or you weave it all into one. And the whole purpose is really not to get followers, but more to showcase that you have expert knowledge in this industry and what you're trying to do. And you've taken your experience to heart, you're showing value, and you're looking to contribute, which is what a lot of companies want from their employees now, is that they want people to contribute willingly and ferociously.
That is such great advice. And I hadn't really thought about that before. But if you're laid off, you have a lot of time on your hands. The only thing you're really doing is updating your resume and filling out applications. What can you do in that other time? I mean, first of all, I feel like you need to treat your day just like you have a job. Get up when you used to get up and sit at your desk and either apply for jobs or do that research, that industry-based research. Follow other people on LinkedIn, read articles, share those articles, comment on those articles. I know there's an algorithm out there that says you need to be out there pretty much every single day. And I know as entrepreneurs that Regina and I try to be out there pretty regularly on LinkedIn to boost that algorithm so that people see the work that we are creating and getting those followers. But if you are seeking a job, you can do very similar things so that, again, that algorithm allows you to be at the top of people's feed. And then if that recruiter goes out there and looks at what you've done, it's not somebody that's just been sitting there for 9 months waiting for someone to hire you. It's someone that has been doing research and really contributing to the industry without even having a full-time job. And I love that advice.
And to add to that, Doris, it's not just like reading articles and reposting, but it's creating your own point of view based on what you read or learn, and share that point of view with others to help them understand where you're coming from. That also helps recruiters and hiring managers understand how you think, how you use critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, your communication skills. All of that comes through in those types of posts that hiring managers, panels, and recruiters are looking at before they ever talk to you.
Exactly.
And I would add one thing to that is don't do it with the mindset of I'm doing this to get a job. Do it with the mindset of I'm a researcher and I'm trying to benefit my industry. And it will wind up as a job, but don't do it to get the job.
Right.
Don't do it with that mindset, because there's a switch in your brain. If I'm doing something just so that a recruiter sees it, is very different than I'm doing something so that the industry benefits from my research, my thoughts, my opinions.
It's very good.
Wow.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Joel.
Real quick.
I'm like amazed by this conversation. Go ahead.
No, real quick too. I'd also recommend keeping in mind too that there are two aspects to the hiring process besides just getting interviews and getting searched on by recruiters. Keep in mind that recruiters are not the decision makers. They are based on the criteria that they are given, and that's a very big misconception that I see a lot of job seekers make, is that they think that recruiters decide who gets moved along and who doesn't in as far as like how they're portrayed online. And that's really more the hiring manager's perception of it. Recruiters find you based on the keywords that you provide, which is also in your LinkedIn. If you go down all the way down to your skills section, make sure you have the relevant skills for your industry, and that includes hard skills, the tools that you're using. On top, you can put soft skills in there, but to be honest, it's not really helping you all that much with soft skills because they expect you to be good at communication. They expect you to know how to be a good team player. What they really look for is the skills that you need essentially to do your job. They want to know if you have experience in that. So that's what you need. That's what recruiters look for, based on criteria. Now, hiring managers will look more in depth as far as like your posting history to see about the knowledge, like I talked about before. So it's good to keep in mind who. Go ahead, Doris.
No, I was going to say, this is probably, I have one more question, and it's probably going to either extend this podcast or, Regina, you may say, you know what, let's say that for another podcast.
Oh, okay.
We talked a lot about job seekers today and helping them improve their resume, but I would love to also turn it to the hiring manager and how can we help them? So imagine you're the hiring manager or that leader and you're in a leadership position, you're hiring someone and you have 1,000 resumes to look at. Do you have any quick advice? Like I said, this may be another podcast.
Oh, this is a total another episode. So
maybe
I'll give you like
very
1
quickly,
minute to
okay,
give a
how do we
teaser
help
for our
that?
next
Yes,
episode.
the hiring manager go through those 1,000 resumes and pick the best person.
Stay tuned for part 2 of the workforce planning aspect of interviewing. I
love it.
The biggest thing is for employers to know is that your process should not be complicated. You don't need more than 2 interviews to make a decision. And if you are, you're making it more complex than it needs to be.
Ooh, wow. That's a good plug.
That's a good tease. A good plug, good tease, a good segue for the next one when we do part 2 at some point in the next few months.
Awesome.
Gosh, I love it. This has been like the most jam-packed episode. I mean, if you think about it, we started talking about resumes, applicant tracking systems, using AI, how to customize your resume, tips on that, and making sure that all of your bullet points for your roles add value to the skills that the organization's looking for. We even talked about LinkedIn, open to work banners, yes or no, and how to use your LinkedIn profile and use postings to get a little bit more attention. This has been so jam-packed. Joel, I cannot thank you enough for all of your wisdom that you have imparted to all of our listeners out there today who are in the market for a new role. That is about all the time that we have for today. So much stuff here with this episode. And I just want you guys to know that we love hearing from you. So if you want to reach out to us, you can email us at leaderishpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to have those emails from you. We respond to every single one of them. Also, if you're interested in being a guest, reach out, same email address. We can talk about that. Tell us what you want to talk about. If you are watching us on YouTube, please give us that thumbs up. Please subscribe. Every time you give us a thumbs up or you subscribe, then it helps that algorithm so we can get to more people. So please be sure to do that. Leave a comment as well. We respond to those comments too. If you are listening through a podcast platform, give us a 5-star review. Leave a comment there for us if you can. Some of them you can, some of them you can't. And I think that's about it for us today. Wow, what a jam-packed episode. I'll just end us with a good old cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.